do I begin? I guess Dad liked me best. And that's really where the trouble started. You see, I was born to him in his old age. And he loved me. And I guess he loved me more than my brothers. And because of that, he made this really bright colored cloak for me. And they kind of resented that. But also, God showed me a vision of how he was going to provide for me, how he was going to keep me safe throughout my life. See, I had this dream of me and my brothers were out and we were all baling wheat, tying it up, and for some reason mine rose up taller than the others, and all of theirs bowed down to me. This is a prophetic dream, you see, that said one day they would be bowing down to me and treating me as an elder. So they resented that. And as I grew up, well, it just got worse. When I was 17, I was going out to the fields to meet them. And I didn't know they had plotted to kill me. Judah was so angry. And they threw me into a cistern, which is like a well to trap water when it rains. They threw me in there and they were going to kill me. But they didn't. Instead, they sold me into slavery. For 20 shekels of silver, they gave me to an Egyptian slave train. But God provided for me even there. He kept me safe, kept me alive. And I was sold to the captain of the guard in Egypt, Potiphar. Before long, even he could see how God blessed me and provided for me through my life and gave me success in everything I did. And he put me in charge of his entire household so that there was no one in his house that wasn't under my command. Later, I was blamed for something I didn't do, thrown into prison, an Egyptian prison. It was dank and dark. I was scared for my life. But even there, God provided for me. He gave me success, kept me safe, kept me alive, and even blessed me with being able to interpret dreams like I'd had when I was younger. I remember two men that were in Pharaoh's service. They were brought down into the prison, the cupbearer and the cook. And both of them had dreams. And they asked me to interpret them. Well, I told them only God knows the interpretation of dreams. But I said, go ahead, tell me, and I'll see if God shows me something. Well, he did. God gave me the interpretation of those dreams, that one of them was going to be restored to be back at Pharaoh's side, and the other one, well, the other one was put to death. I just made one request. I said, when you're back at Pharaoh's side, remember me. Don't forget about me in this prison. But I guess he did. Because 2 years went by before Pharaoh had a dream. And his cupbearer remembered, hey, there was a guy in prison who could interpret dreams. So they cleaned me up, put me in front of Pharaoh. I told him the same thing. I said, only God knows the interpretation of dreams. But go ahead and tell me, and I'll see if God shows me something. And God did. 7 years of famine, 7 years of plenty, and then 7 years of famine. That was what was going to happen. So I told Pharaoh, what you need to do is during those 7 years of plenty, when the crops are good, You need to store all that extra food up, the extra grain. And then when the 7 years of famine come, you'll have the grain, and people will have to come to you for food. And Pharaoh put me in charge of the whole project. I traveled over the whole country of Egypt, going to different cities, different places, everywhere where the crops were good, everywhere where those 7 years of plenty gave them extra food. And we put it into storehouses, and we kept it. And when the 7 years of famine came, Pharaoh put me in charge of selling it. In fact, he put me in second command of the whole country. Pretty good for a kid from Israel. A farmer, a shepherd. Now I was in charge of all of Egypt, second only to Pharaoh. And one day, my brothers came in. It had been 20 years since I saw Judah and Reuben and Simeon and the others. 20 years, but I recognized them. They didn't recognize me, though. I was just a scrawny kid that they threw into that well. But now, I was a man in charge of a whole country. So, played a little bit of a trick on them. I made them think that I thought they were spies. Said they had come to spy out our defenses, see where we were weak, so that they could come and conquer us. Well, they denied it, of course, because they weren't. But I told them, leave one of your brothers with me in my prison, and the rest of you go back to your father and bring me your youngest brother. You see, I figured they would sell out Simeon, just as they sold me out years ago. But they didn't. They came back, and they brought little Benjamin. Oh, Ben. As soon as I saw him, I couldn't control myself anymore. I told them, I'm your brother Joseph, the one that you sold into slavery. God has provided for me all these years. He's given me success and He's kept me safe so that I can now provide for you. Is my father still alive? They said yes. So I said, bring Jacob back here. I want to see him. And the family was restored. They brought the whole entire bunch back. And we lived in Egypt for many years because God provided.